A paper filter element cut open on a shop bench. The pleats spread flat under a work light. A pencil magnet drags through the debris. Black fuzz comes up on the tip. That fuzz is a camshaft coming apart. The engine it came out of still makes full rated power, and it will keep making it for another 200 hours while the owner feels nothing at all. The number in the logbook was never the thing that decides this. What is the hour count on your engine right now, and how many of those hours were flown in the last 12 months? Put both numbers below. That gap is what Sky Ranch covers. Subscribe so you catch the next one. On July 24, 2026, Lycoming published Service Instruction 1009BF. It moved time between overhaul from 2,000 hours to 2,600. The extension covers the O320 and IO320, the O360 and IO360, the IO390, and both the O540 and IO540 families. 600 extra hours handed to the fleet in a single document. Nobody had to do anything to earn it. Except the document has a clause in it. The new figure applies only if the owner operates and maintains that engine to every applicable Lycoming publication and FAA requirement. I have read a lot of logbooks. Almost none of them can prove that sentence. That clause moves the burden. Before the 24th, 2,000 hours was a manufacturer's warning. After it, 2,600 is a defense the owner has to earn, and he earns it in paperwork he probably has not been keeping. These are not obscure airframes. In 2025, Textron delivered 191 Skyhawks and Piper delivered 188 Archers, and those two types have anchored the training fleet for 60 years. Trade listings currently show 535 Skyhawks and 532 Skylanes on the market at the same time. This is the machinery most American pilots actually buy. Now hold that against something most owners never learned. For a Part 91 operator, TBO is not law. The FAA does not require an overhaul at any hour, on any engine, ever. 2,000 hours was a recommendation. The market decided to price it as a statute anyway. Lycoming publishes a second limit alongside the hours, and this one gets ignored. 12 years. The engine is due at 12 calendar years, whether it has flown 2,000 hours or 400. That calendar limit exists for a reason, and the reason is the whole story. The median asking price on a used Skyhawk right now is $129,000. On a Skylane, it is $205,000. A fresh overhaul adds $15,000 to $25,000 to a Skyhawk's value. That overhaul costs $60,000 at the factory and returns between $25,000 and $35,000 on resale. You spend $60,000. The market hands back $30,000. Published shop pricing on an O320 overhaul sits around $31,600. A 6-cylinder IO540 runs closer to $50,000. The engine somebody specified in 1974 wrote that bill for you. Set that against the reserve math. On a $90,000 overhaul at 2,000 hours, you move $45 into a maintenance account for every hour you fly. Most owners never open that account. They meet the number when the shop calls. So the number is advisory, the market treats it as binding, and the manufacturer just moved it 600 hours to the right. None of which explains the thing that actually ends most of these engines, because most of them never reach the number at all. Savvy Aviation puts it in one line. Camshaft and lifter spalling is the #1 reason engines fail to make TBO, not the cylinders and not the crankshaft. The key M. Here is why, and it is geometry, not quality. The Lycoming camshaft sits high in the case, above the crankshaft, away from the oil mist coming off the crank throws. When the airplane flies, that surface stays wet. Park it for 3 weeks and the steel dries out. Moisture in the case finds bare steel and puts down corrosion pits. The lifter rides across those pits a few million times and the surface breaks up. The cam goes dry before anything else does. Lycoming has been fighting this specific surface for 50 years. The O320H2AD went into the late 70s. Skyhawk and posted documented camshaft spalling and hydraulic lifter failures. It took multiple airworthiness directives to settle it. Owners on the ramp decided the letters in the designation stood for airworthiness directive, and the joke stuck because Lycoming earned it. Bill Middlebrook at Penn Yan Aero told Aviation Consumer that the trend is getting worse and shipped them scrapped cams and spalled lifters to prove it. His line was blunt. "We had a brand new cam come apart in the test cell. Now the part that inverts everything. This is a disuse failure. It hits the airplane that sits, not the airplane that works." Savvy Aviation's own position is that the problem mainly affects owner-flown aircraft that fly irregularly and sit unflown for weeks at a time. Picture two airplanes on the same ramp. One is a 1978 Skyhawk with 2,400 hours, flown 7 days a week by students who have never once treated it gently. Its cam is fine. The other is a spotless Cherokee with 900 hours in 22 years, hangared, waxed, flown 4 times a summer by an owner who does everything right. Its camshaft is coming apart right now. This is the part that makes no sense to me. The used market pays its biggest premium for low time and a hanger, and that is the exact profile that eats camshafts. Which brings me to the Cherokee and to the only number in this video that should frighten you. In 2018, a wing came off a Piper PA-28 in flight. The NTSB found fatigue cracking across an extensive cross-section of the lower main wing spar cap. It sat at the 2 most outboard bolt holes, where the spar attaches to the wing box. That area is not visible. You cannot find it on a walk-around, and you cannot find it at an annual. The FAA issued Airworthiness Directive 2020-26-16 in January of 2021. It requires an eddy current inspection of specific bolt holes once the spar reaches 5,000 factored service hours. The agency put the affected fleet at 19,696 airplanes. The FAA priced the inspection at $380 per airplane. It priced the repair at $8,260 per wing spar. Now here is the invoice. A certified NDT provider quotes $600 for the eddy current work, plus travel, plus another $300 to $400 for the mechanic who pulls and reinstalls the hardware. Call it $1,000. The estimate was never the bill. The regulator's number and the actual invoice sit 2.5 times apart. Which one would you have budgeted for? And the FAA is not finished. In September of 2024, it proposed a rule to supersede that directive. The new version makes the inspections repetitive instead of one time. It switches the math from factored hours to calculated hours, and it puts a spar replacement date at the end of the sequence. 2 spars at $8,260 each is $16,500. A Cherokee 180 trades 15 to 20% below a comparable Skyhawk. Do that arithmetic on your own airplane. It is not a comfortable number, which leaves the Skylane and a different engine philosophy entirely. The Continental 0470 powered most fixed-gear 182s from 1953 to 1986. Continental mounts its camshaft lower in the case than Lycoming does, closer to the oil. That geometry helps. It does not make the engine immune. Usage drives this failure, not cam position. What it does change is the bill. Owners quote $35,000 to $50,000 for an 0470 overhaul. Labor alone runs $8,000 on a 6-cylinder against $5,000 on a 4 before a single part goes in the box. Same failure, 6 cylinders instead of 4. Every number gets bigger. 3 airplanes, 3 different bills, and the badge on the cowling decides none of it. The thing that decides it costs about $4 and takes 10 minutes. Start with what does not work. Lycoming Service Instruction 1191A. A sets the compression standard. 70/80 or better, cylinders within 5 pounds per square inch of each other, and anything under 60/80 gets investigated. It is a real test and it catches real problems. It will not catch this one. A camshaft can lose significant metal while every cylinder on the engine reads in the 70s, because the cam has nothing to do with how well a cylinder holds pressure. Oil analysis has the same blind spot, where particles have to stay suspended in the oil to show up in a sample, and the particles that matter do not. They migrate to the filter and to the bottom of the sump instead. So the two instruments most owners trust both look straight past the failure. Here is what actually finds it, and your mechanic can do it at the next oil change. Cut the filter open. Rinse the element in avgas or a clear solvent. Pour the contents through a paper towel and let it dry. Then run a pencil magnet across the debris field. Early camshaft spalling shows up as black fuzzy material clinging to the magnet. From the first pits to particulate large enough that nobody could miss it, runs roughly 200 to 300 hours. That is the entire window in which this finding is a repair instead of a teardown. The window belongs to whoever is looking. I am not going to oversell it. A magnet does not find every failure, and a clean filter at one oil change proves exactly one oil change. The value is not in the single result, it is in 10 of them in a row written down, so the trend is visible before the metal is. That is the difference between a maintenance record and a stack of receipts, so hold everything equal. Same field, same fuel truck, same shop, same schedule. Judge these three only on what the documented record says. Their engines do pass 2,000 hours. The 4-cylinder Lycoming in the Skyhawk wins. Fewest cylinders to overhaul. The cheapest parts bill of the three. A published overhaul number that lands in the low 30s instead of the high 40s. And no airworthiness directive sitting under the wing waiting for a factored hour count to catch up with it. That is the verdict on engine condition and cost. It is not the whole verdict. Because before any Cessna owner celebrates, there is one thing about the Cherokee I would take over the Skyhawk without hesitating. That SPA directive means somebody with a level 2 certification has already put an eddy current probe inside those bolt holes and written down what they found. It is in the record. A buyer can read it. Nobody has done that to your Skyhawk. There is no directive telling them to. Somebody inspected the Piper. Everybody assumed the Cessna. Two different conversations, and I am not going to pretend they are the same one. The badge on the cowling never decided this. Lycoming against Continental, high wing against low, Wichita against Vero Beach. 40 years of hanger argument about the one variable nobody can change. The variable that decides it is the calendar on the wall, and that one is entirely yours. So which is the real trap? The airplane with a known directive and a documented inspection, or the airplane with no directive and nobody looking? Pick one and say so below. Once you understand that the enemy is the calendar and not the tachometer, the whole used market starts reading backwards. You will not stop seeing it on every ramp in the country. That is what Sky Ranch does. Subscribe so you catch the next one before it costs you.